The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched 500 meters in every direction. 47 different species sat in their designated seats, each position marked by holographic displays showing real-time translations of the proceedings. The air carried a mixture of oxygen, methane, and other atmospheric components, carefully balanced to keep every delegate alive and comfortable. Ambassador Michael Chen stood at the center of the chamber, representing humanity. His dark suit looked plain, compared to the elaborate clothing and biological displays of the other species around him. Earth had joined the Galactic Council only 15 years ago, making humans the newest members of this ancient organization. Most of the older species still viewed humanity as children playing at galactic politics. The Vrelnith representative rose from his seat. The Vrelnith were large creatures standing nearly 3 meters tall with 4 arms and scales that shimmered blue and green under the chamber lights. Their civilization had existed for 12,000 years, and they controlled 17 star systems. They were powerful and they knew it. This council must address the human problem immediately, the Vrelnith ambassador announced, his voice carrying through translation devices to every being present. Humanity has violated the Treaty of Celestial Borders. Their colony ships have crossed into territories that were designated as expansion zones for established members. Chen stepped forward, his tablet displaying clear navigation charts. That is simply not true. We have detailed records showing that every human colony was established in unclaimed space, verified by 3 independent surveying organizations. The data is available for anyone to review. The Vrelnith ambassador made a dismissive gesture with 2 of his forehands. Human records are unreliable. Your species has been in space for barely a century. The Vrelnith hegemony has navigated these regions for millennia. We know what belongs to whom. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Chen looked around, hoping to see support from other delegations. The Catharan, an ancient insectoid race, remained perfectly still in their seats. The Pelothians, aquatic beings floating in their water-filled observation pods, said nothing. Even the younger races that had previously been friendly to humanity seemed reluctant to speak up. The council speaker, a Methodian whose species had founded the council 6,000 years ago, called for order. The evidence will be reviewed by the Border Commission. However, given the serious nature of these accusations and the Vrelnith hegemonies standing in this council, we must take immediate action. Chen felt ice in his stomach. What kind of action? The council authorizes the Vrelnith hegemony to conduct a limited enforcement action against human territorial holdings, the speaker announced. This will serve as a reminder that treaties must be respected and that newer members must learn their place in the galactic order. You cannot be serious, Chen said, his voice rising despite his training to remain calm. You are authorizing military action against human civilians based on accusations that we have proven false? This is not justice. This is bullying backed by political power. The Vrelnith ambassador smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Perhaps this lesson will teach humanity some humility. You have expanded too quickly, claimed too much, and shown too little respect for established powers. Consider this a correction. Chen activated his communication link to Earth. They are authorizing an attack. I need emergency instructions. The response came from the Secretary General herself. Do everything you can to stop this, but if they proceed, make sure our final statement is recorded. Every species needs to hear it. For 6 more hours, Chen argued, presented evidence, and called for delayed votes. He contacted friendly delegations privately, begging for their support. Some expressed sympathy but said they could not risk offending the Vrelnith. Others simply ignored his messages. The older species, the powerful ones, had already made their decision. When the final vote came, it was overwhelming. 38 members voted to authorize the Vrelnith action. Only 5 voted against it, all of them younger species with limited power. 4 members abstained, unwilling to support humanity but too afraid to oppose the majority. The Vrelnith fleet moved within days. Their warships were massive, built over centuries of military tradition. They entered human space broadcasting their council authorization, demanding that 3 colony worlds surrender immediately for occupation and inspection. The colonies were New Perth, Horizon Station, and Verdant. The colonial government sent desperate messages to Earth, asking what they should do. The response was simple. Evacuate everyone possible to emergency shelters. Hope for the best. Prepare for the worst. The Vrelnith did not accept surrender. Their ships opened fire on the 3 colonies without warning. Orbital bombardment turned cities into ash. Fusion weapons vaporized emergency shelters. When it was over, 2.3 million human beings were dead. Men, women, children, elderly people in care facilities, workers in underground farms, teachers in schools, all gone. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session to review the action. The Vrelnith ambassador presented their report, claiming the colonies had refused to surrender and had fired on Vrelnith ships. Both claims were lies and everyone knew it, but nobody challenged them. Ambassador Chen requested permission to speak. He walked to the center of the chamber and for a long moment he said nothing. He simply looked at each delegation, his eyes meeting theirs one by one. Some looked away, others stared back with indifference. You have authorized the murder of 2.3 million innocent people, Chen began, his voice quiet but carrying clearly through every translator. You did this knowing the accusations were false. You did this because a powerful member wanted to teach a weaker member a lesson. You did this because you believed humanity would accept this injustice. The chamber remained silent. I want every species here to understand something very clearly. You have made a grave miscalculation. You looked at humanity and saw weakness because we are new to the stars. You saw us offering friendship and mistook it for inability to defend ourselves. You believed that because we sought peace we were incapable of war. Chen's voice grew colder. Humanity does not forgive. Humanity does not forget. We have recorded everything that happened here. Every vote. Every justification. Every lie. We will remember which of you stood by while millions of our people were murdered. We will remember who authorized this atrocity. The Vrelnith ambassador laughed. Is that a threat, human? What will your primitive species do? You have 8 colony worlds and a tiny fleet. The Vrelnith hegemony alone commands forces that would crush Earth within days. And behind us stand the full might of the Galactic Council. Chen turned to face the Vrelnith directly. You are correct about one thing. Humanity is new to space. We have only been traveling between stars for a few decades, but you have made a fatal error in judgment. You forgot to ask why a species that just learned to leave their home system expanded so quickly. You never wondered what kind of civilization could go from a single planet to 8 colonies in just 15 years. He paused, letting his words sink in. You are about to find out. The hard way. Chen gathered his documents and walked toward the exit. At the doorway he stopped and looked back one final time. Effective immediately, Earth is recalling all ambassadors and ending all diplomatic communication with the Galactic Council. We will not return until justice has been served. Consider this your only warning. The massive doors closed behind him with a sound like thunder. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in confused discussion. Some delegates laughed at the humans' dramatic exit. Others felt uneasy without quite knowing why. The Vrelnith ambassador addressed the chamber, his voice full of contempt. Let the humans sulk in their corner of space. They are irrelevant. Within a generation they will beg to rejoin this council on whatever terms we offer. But the ancient Catharan ambassador, who had remained silent throughout the entire proceedings, spoke for the first time in years. Her voice was like wind through crystal. I wonder, she said softly, if we will all live long enough to regret this day. Nobody paid attention to her warning. They should have. 6 months passed in silence. Human ships disappeared from the trade routes that connected the galaxy. The bustling human merchant vessels that had become common sights at various ports simply stopped arriving. The human embassy buildings in 47 different worlds went dark, their staff gone, their doors sealed. The Galactic Council's intelligence services noticed the changes immediately. Reports flooded in from observers stationed near human territory. Human military vessels, which had been patrolling colony zones and protecting trade routes, were pulling back. Every warship, every defense platform, every military installation was withdrawing deeper into human space. They are retreating, the Vrelnith military advisor told his superior, running back to their homeworld like scared animals. As we predicted. The Vrelnith ambassador began lobbying other council members for a resolution to expel humanity entirely from the council. They have abandoned their responsibilities as members, he argued. They refuse diplomatic contact. They have withdrawn from all trade agreements. Humanity has removed itself from civilized galactic society. We should formalize this separation and redistribute their claimed territories to species that will use them properly. Many council members agreed. The Pelothian suggested waiting a few more months to see if humanity would respond. The Methodian speaker proposed sending an official communication, demanding that Earth explain its actions. But the dominant opinion was that humanity was finished as a galactic power. Not everyone felt so confident. The Catharan ambassador requested access to deep space surveillance data from the regions bordering human territory. What she found disturbed her. Human ships were not fleeing randomly. They were moving with purpose, following precise patterns, all converging on their core systems. They are not running, she told the Council's strategic committee. They are repositioning. This is organized military movement. The committee chair of Relnith military commander dismissed her concerns. Of course they are gathering their forces. They are preparing to defend their homeworld when we decide to take further action. It is the logical move for a weak power facing stronger enemies. Deep in human space where no alien observer could see, Earth was transforming. Every major city on the planet had begun construction of massive underground facilities. Billions of people participated in drills, learning evacuation procedures and emergency protocols. Children attended schools that now included bunkers capable of surviving orbital bombardment. Admiral Sarah Okonkwo stood in the command center of the United Defense Fleet headquarters, watching holographic displays that showed the position of every human vessel in known space. She was 53 years old, born in Lagos, and had spent 30 years in Earth Space Forces. She had fought against pirates, negotiated with alien merchants, and helped establish humanity's first colonies. Now she was coordinating something far bigger. "Status report," she commanded. Her operations officer responded immediately. "All military vessels have reached their assigned positions. The solar system defense grid is complete. Construction of the new weapon platforms is ahead of schedule. Project Thanatos is ready for deployment." Okonkwo nodded, studying the tactical display. The solar system now contained more defensive firepower than the next 5 most heavily defended systems in the galaxy combined. Every approach vector had overlapping fields of fire. Automated weapons platforms orbited in carefully calculated patterns. Thousands of mines disguised as ordinary asteroids waited in the outer system. But defense was only part of the plan. Project Thanatos had been developed in secret, starting the day after humanity's first contact with a hostile alien species 20 years ago. The project brought together the greatest scientific and military minds Earth had ever produced. Their mission was simple: prepare for the worst possible scenario. Assume that one day humanity would face enemies with superior technology and numbers. Figure out how to win anyway. The result was a collection of weapons and tactics that pushed the boundaries of physics and morality. Relativistic kinetic bombardment systems that could accelerate asteroids to a significant fraction of light speed. Swarm drones controlled by artificial intelligence that could coordinate millions of units simultaneously. Directed energy weapons that focused power with precision no living gunner could match. Biological agents designed to target specific alien biochemistries while leaving humans unharmed. "Have we heard anything from the colonies?" Okonkwo asked. "New Perth Memorial Station is complete," her officer reported. "Horizon Monument and Verdant Memorial are nearly finished. Every human colony now has a permanent memorial listing the names of those we lost." Okonkwo allowed herself a moment of grief. 2.3 million names. 2.3 million people who had traveled to distant worlds seeking new opportunities, new homes, new futures, all murdered because the Galactic Council decided humanity needed to be taught humility. She pushed the emotion down and focused on her duty. "And our intelligence on the Vrelnith?" "Complete. We know the location of every major Vrelnith military base, shipyard, command center, and defensive installation. We have mapped their force deployments, identified their supply lines, and analyzed their tactical doctrines. We also have similar information on every other council member species as ordered." "Good. They think we spent 6 months crying. They have no idea we spent 6 months preparing." In the civilian sectors of Earth cities, people went about their lives with a strange mixture of normalcy and tension. Everyone knew something was coming. The government had not hidden the fact that Earth was preparing for war, but the exact timeline remained classified. Dr. Jennifer Park, one of the lead scientists on Project Thanatos, sat in her laboratory reviewing final calculations. She was a physicist who had once dreamed of using her knowledge to explore the universe peacefully. Now she designed weapons that could crack planets. The irony was not lost on her. "The Council thinks they know us," she said to her research partner. They think because we are new to space, we are unsophisticated. They do not understand that being new means we are not bound by their old thinking. We do not fight wars the way they do because we never learned their limitations. Her partner, Dr. Amari Tanaka, nodded. Every weapon system in our arsenal is something they have either never imagined or considered too dangerous to deploy. They built their military doctrines over thousands of years, refining them, making them elegant and sophisticated. We built ours in decades with one goal: maximum effectiveness. Throughout human space, similar conversations were happening. Soldiers trained with new weapons, engineers tested new ships, scientists ran final simulations. Everyone understood that when Earth broke its silence, the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Okonkwo called a meeting of her senior staff. Officers from every branch of Earth's military gathered in the secure conference room. The holographic display showed the current galactic situation. Vrelnith forces expanding into formerly human territories. Council members discussing the redistribution of human colonies, and intelligence reports suggesting the Vrelnith were planning a second military action. They are going to attack again, Okonkwo told her officers. Our intelligence indicates the Vrelnith are assembling a fleet to claim our remaining colonies by force. They believe we will not resist. They believe we have accepted defeat. She looked at each officer in turn. They are wrong. When they enter human space again, we will be ready, not just to defend ourselves, but to ensure this never happens again. We are not fighting for revenge, though we have every right to it. We are fighting to establish a new reality in this galaxy, that humanity will never again be anyone's victim. A tactical officer raised a question. What are our rules of engagement, Admiral? Okonkwo's expression was cold and determined. When they attack, we respond with overwhelming force. We will demonstrate exactly what humanity is capable of. The goal is not to defeat one Vrelnith fleet. The goal is to make every species in this galaxy understand that attacking humanity has consequences they cannot afford to pay. She activated a new display, showing battle plans that made several officers draw sharp breaths. We have been preparing for this since the day we reached the stars, Okonkwo continued. Every human who has ever looked up at the night sky has wondered if we were alone. We found our answer. We are not alone, but we also learned that the universe is not a friendly place. It is time to show the galaxy who we are. As the meeting concluded and officers returned to their duties, Okonkwo remained alone in the command center. She thought about the 2.3 million people who had died. She thought about the families destroyed, the children who would never grow up, the dreams that had ended in nuclear fire. They thought we were weak. She whispered to the empty room. They are about to learn that humanity has been preparing for war since we first looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. We hoped for friends. We prepared for enemies, and now we will show them why that preparation matters. The Vrelnith battle fleet gathered at the edge of human territory, 300 warships strong. It was the largest military force the Vrelnith hegemony had assembled in 2 centuries. Their ships gleamed in the light of distant stars, each one a masterpiece of military engineering built over decades. The smallest vessels measured 200 meters long. The largest, the flagship Relentless Tide, stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Fleet Commander Thek stood on the bridge of his flagship, his forearms crossed in satisfaction. Around him, dozens of officers monitored tactical displays and coordinated the massive fleet. The mood was confident, almost celebratory. The human silence continues? Thek asked his communications officer. Yes, Commander. We have detected no response to our presence. Their remaining colonies show no signs of evacuation or military mobilization. We have observed only 30 human vessels in this entire region. Thek made a gesture of dismissal with one hand. 30 ships against 300. They are either paralyzed by fear or have abandoned these colonies entirely. Either way, this will be the shortest military operation in recent history. The Vrelnith fleet crossed into what had been the human border zone. Their sensors swept the surrounding space, searching for threats. They found little. A few automated defense platforms already deactivated, some communication satellites silent and unmanned, and ahead, exactly as reported, 30 human ships holding position near the colony of New Shanghai. The human vessels looked unremarkable. They were smaller than Vrelnith warships, with simple designs that seemed almost primitive, compared to the elaborate architecture of more established species. Each ship was perhaps 150 meters long, with minimal external features and no obvious heavy weapons. They are not even running, Thex's tactical officer observed. 30 ships against our entire fleet, and they simply wait for us. Thex activated the communication system, broadcasting on all frequencies that the humans might be monitoring. Attention, human vessels. This is Fleet Commander Thex of the Vrelnith Hegemony, operating under the authority of the Galactic Council. The territories you currently occupy have been deemed in violation of established treaties. You will surrender your vessels immediately and prepare your colonies for Vrelnith administration. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of your ships and military occupation of your worlds. For a long moment, there was no response. Thex was about to repeat his demand when a communication channel opened. A female voice, speaking in clear galactic standard, responded, "This is Captain Rodriguez of the UDS Defiant. We have received your demand." Thex waited for the surrender announcement. Instead, he heard something else. "No." The single word hung in the silence of space for a heartbeat. Then the universe exploded into violence. The 30 human ships did not flee. They did not attempt to negotiate. They accelerated directly toward the Vrelnith fleet at speeds that should have been impossible for vessels of their size. As they moved, panels along their hulls opened to reveal weapons that no one in the galaxy had seen before. Thousands of small objects erupted from each human ship. At first, the Vrelnith sensors registered them as missiles or fighter craft, but they moved with a coordination that seemed impossible. Swarm drones, each one controlled by artificial intelligence networks, each one communicating with thousands of others in real time. They flowed through space like a living thing, adapting to defensive fire, covering each other, moving with purpose that seemed almost predatory. "Engage defensive systems," Thex commanded. "All ships, open fire!" The Vrelnith fleet responded with the power of 300 warships. Energy weapons lit up the darkness. Missiles streaked across the void. Point defense systems created walls of metal and energy. For a few seconds, it seemed like the sheer volume of fire would destroy the attacking drones. Then the drones reached the Vrelnith ships. They did not explode against the hulls like conventional weapons. Instead, they attached themselves to shields, to armor, to weapon systems. Thousands of small cutting tools began working simultaneously, slicing through defensive barriers with precision that no living pilot could match. When shields collapsed under the focused cutting, directed energy beams from the human ships found the gaps instantly. The first Vrelnith ship to die was a destroyer on the fleet's outer edge. The drone stripped away its shield generators in seconds. A beam of coherent light, focused with impossible precision, cut through its main reactor. The ship exploded, its debris already spreading outward when the swarm moved to the next target. "They are coordinating too perfectly," the tactical officer shouted. "The drones are operating as a single entity. Our countermeasures cannot adapt fast enough." Thex watched in growing horror as his fleet began to come apart. Ship after ship fell to the coordinated assault. The human vessels themselves seemed almost untouchable, their small size and incredible speed making them nearly impossible to target effectively. When Vrelnith weapons did score hits, the damage seemed minimal. The human ships had armor and shields far beyond what their size should allow. "All ships concentrate fire on the human vessels themselves," Thex ordered. "Ignore the drones, destroy the ships controlling them." 50 Vrelnith warships turned their full attention to a single human ship. Enough firepower to crack a small moon focused on one target. The human ship jinked and weaved through space with impossible agility, but eventually the sheer volume of fire found it. Missiles detonated against its shields. Energy weapons burned through armor. For a moment, Thex thought they had found the solution. Then the damaged human ship did something unexpected. It accelerated directly toward the Vrelnith formation, moving faster than before despite its injuries. As it approached, more panels opened along its hull. "Evasive action!" Thex screamed, but it was too late. The human ship detonated with far more force than its reactor should have produced. The explosion consumed 6 Vrelnith warships instantly and severely damaged 8 more. It was not a normal self-destruct. It was a deliberately engineered weapon, designed to maximize damage in close quarters. "They turned their own ship into a bomb," the tactical officer said in disbelief. "What kind of species does that?" "The kind we should never have attacked," Thex whispered. The battle continued for 17 minutes total. In that time, 300 Vrelnith warships faced 30 human vessels. When it was over, 300 Vrelnith ships were destroyed or disabled. 29 human ships survived, most showing varying degrees of damage. The 30th had sacrificed itself to take 14 enemy vessels with it. The battlefield was a graveyard. Debris from Vrelnith warships created a cloud of metal and frozen atmosphere that stretched across millions of kilometers. Escape pods drifted in the darkness, broadcasting distress signals. The Vrelnith survivors waited for mercy or death, not knowing which the humans would choose. Captain Rodriguez broadcast on all frequencies. "This is the United Defense Fleet to all Vrelnith survivors. Remain in your escape pods and lifeboats. You will not be harmed. Rescue ships are on their way. You are now prisoners of war and will be treated according to the new Geneva Conventions." Thex, floating in his own escape pod after the relentless tide had been cut in half by human weapons, could not believe what he was hearing. The humans had just annihilated his fleet, and now they were offering mercy to the survivors. But the humans were not finished. The 29 remaining human ships did not return to their colonies. Instead, they set course directly for Vrelna Prime, the Vrelnith homeworld. They moved at maximum speed, broadcasting their intentions openly on all channels. "This is Admiral Sarah Okonkwo of the United Defense Fleet to the Vrelnith hegemony. Your attack fleet has been destroyed. We are now proceeding to your homeworld. You murdered 2.3 million of our people. We could do the same to you. We have the capability. We have the right under any reasonable definition of justice. But we are not savages. We are giving you one chance to surrender and face accountability for your crimes. If you force us to fight our way through, we will do so. And when we arrive at your homeworld, we will give you the same mercy you showed our colonies." The message was heard not just by the Vrelnith, but by every species in the galaxy. Human ships had been broadcasting everything from the moment the battle began. Every government, every news service, every individual with access to galactic communications networks could watch, as humanity demonstrated exactly what it was capable of. The human fleet reached Vrelna Prime 18 hours later. The planet's defense grid was formidable, built over centuries. Orbital platforms, defense satellites, automated weapon systems, and the home fleet of the Vrelnith military. It should have been impossible for 29 ships to threaten such defenses. Admiral Okonkwo broadcast one final message. "This is your last chance. Surrender now, or we will dismantle your defenses and demonstrate to the entire galaxy what happens when you commit genocide against humanity." The Vrelnith High Commander, watching from the surface of his homeworld, made the calculation. He had just watched 30 human ships destroy 300 of his best warships in 17 minutes. His orbital defenses were strong, but not that strong, and the humans had weapons that no one had seen before. "We surrender," he transmitted, his voice carrying defeat and humiliation. The Vrelnith hegemony surrenders to the human. The Galactic Council chambers filled with representatives in a chaos of emergency jiaoji. The normal order and dignity of proceedings had vanished, replaced by something humans would recognize immediately: panic. Delegates shouted at each other across the vast room. Translation systems struggled to keep up with the volume of simultaneous conversations. Several species were demanding immediate military action. Others were calling for negotiation. A few were simply trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. The holographic displays that normally showed administrative information now broadcast live feeds from Vrelna Prime. Human warships held position in orbit around the Vrelnith homeworld. The planet's once mighty defense grid was gone, systematically dismantled in a display of overwhelming force that had taken less than 4 hours. Not destroyed with brutal bombardment, but carefully, surgically removed piece by piece. The message was clear. We can do this with precision, so imagine what we could do if we stopped being careful. The Methodian speaker called for order repeatedly, but nobody was listening. Finally, she activated the emergency protocols. A pulse of sound swept through the chamber, loud enough to hurt but not to damage. It got everyone's attention. "This council will come to order," she declared, her voice carrying the weight of 6,000 years of institutional authority. "We face a crisis unlike any in recent history. We must respond with wisdom, not hysteria." The Vrelnith ambassador, who had stood so confidently just months before, now looked diminished. His government had been humiliated. His military had been crushed. His homeworld was at the mercy of the species he had dismissed as primitive and weak. "We must mobilize immediately," he said, though his voice carried little conviction. "The Council must unite its fleets and drive the humans back. They have committed an act of war against a member species. This cannot stand. An act of war? The voice came from the entrance to the chamber. Ambassador Michael Chen walked in, flanked by 2 human Marines in full combat armor. The Marines carried no visible weapons, but their presence radiated threat. Behind them came 4 more humans, all wearing suits but moving with military precision. Chen walked to the center of the chamber, the same place he had stood 7 months ago when he had promised that humanity would not forget. Every delegate watched him, and many felt fear for the first time in their long lives. "You dare return here?" the Relnith ambassador said. "After attacking a council member world? After threatening our entire civilization?" Chen turned to face him directly. "We attacked nothing. We defended ourselves against your second attempt at genocide. Or did you think we would not notice your fleet massing at our borders? Did you believe we would simply allow you to murder more of our people?" He pulled out a data tablet and activated it. Holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber, visible to every delegate. They showed detailed records of Relnith fleet movements, communications intercepts, and military plans. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. The Vrelnith had been planning a second attack, one designed to claim all remaining human colonies by force. "We have been very patient," Chen continued, his voice calm but carrying an edge like steel. "We spent 7 months in silence, watching as you celebrated the murder of our people, watching as you planned to do it again, watching as this council did nothing to hold anyone accountable." The Pelothian delegate, speaking from her water-filled pod, made a gesture of confusion. "But the council authorized a limited enforcement action. It was within our legal framework." "Limited?" Chen's voice rose. "You call 2.3 million deaths limited? You authorized the destruction of 3 civilian colonies. There were schools, hospitals, farms, homes. You murdered children in their beds and called it enforcement." He touched his tablet again. New images appeared, showing the colonies before and after the Vrelnith attack. The before pictures showed thriving communities, cities full of life, farms stretching across fertile plains. The after pictures showed nothing but ash and craters. "We have come here today with evidence, with legal arguments, and with a very simple proposition. The Vrelnith hegemony committed genocide against human civilians. Under the Council's own charter, specifically Article 47, Section 12, genocide is defined as the deliberate killing of a large group of people, especially those of a particular ethnic group or nation. The punishment for genocide under that same charter is collective action by the full Council to ensure justice and prevent future atrocities." The speaker looked uncomfortable. "The situation is more complex than—" "No," Chen interrupted, something he had never done before. "It is not complex. It is simple. They killed our people. You authorized it, and now you must face the consequences of that decision." A Methodian military advisor stood up. "Are you threatening this council? Do you understand what you are saying? The combined military forces of 47 species could crush Earth within weeks." Chen smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Could you? Let me show you something interesting." The holographic displays changed again. Now they showed real-time tactical data. Human ships, hundreds of them, holding position near every council member homeworld, not attacking, not threatening, just present, watching, waiting. For the past 7 months, while you assumed we were hiding in fear, we were positioning our forces. Every major military installation, every shipyard, every command center of every council member species has human ships nearby. Some are cloaked, some are obvious. All are armed with weapons you have never seen before. The chamber went absolutely silent. Delegates began frantically checking their own military reports. Confirmation started coming in. Yes, human ships were detected near Peloth. Yes, unidentified vessels had been spotted near the Methodian core worlds. Yes. The reports flooded in from every species. This is impossible, a Methodian admiral said, his voice shaking. You do not have the industrial capacity to build such a fleet. You have 8 colony worlds and a single home system. Where did all these ships come from? Chen's expression was cold. You know what you know about humanity because we chose to show you. You never asked what else we might be capable of. You never wondered why a species that just learned to travel between stars managed to establish 8 colonies in 15 years. You never questioned how we built those colonies so quickly, or what kind of industrial base that required. He let that sink in before continuing. Humanity has 40 billion people. We have automated manufacturing that can build a warship in weeks instead of years. We have artificial intelligence that coordinates our military operations with perfect efficiency, and we have something else that none of you have. We are willing to do whatever is necessary to protect our own. The Catharan ambassador, the ancient being who had warned the council months ago, spoke for only the second time in living memory. "How long?" she asked. "How long have you been preparing for this?" "Since first contact," Chen answered honestly. "We learned very quickly that the galaxy was not a safe place, that powerful species preyed on weaker ones. That might made right in the eyes of the Galactic Council, so we prepared. We hoped we would never need our preparations." "You forced our hand." The Vrelnith ambassador found his voice again, though it was weaker now. "What do you want? We have already surrendered our fleet. Our homeworld is occupied. What more can you take from us?" "Justice," Chen said simply. "The Vrelnith hegemony will stand trial for genocide. Your government will face an independent tribunal, composed of neutral species and human representatives. You will pay reparations to the families of those you murdered. Your military will be disbanded and rebuilt under strict oversight, and you will spend the next century proving that you have learned from your mistakes." "And if we refuse?" the Vrelnith ambassador asked, though he already knew the answer. "Then we will make an example of you that the galaxy will never forget. We have the capability to sterilize your homeworld from orbit. We could eliminate the Vrelnith as a species within days. We will not do that because we are not monsters. But make no mistake, if you force our hand, we will do what is necessary." The speaker looked at Chen with something between fear and a strange kind of respect. "And what about the rest of us? What do you demand from the council?" "Three things." Chen held up 3 fingers. "First, formal reparations and an apology for authorizing genocide. Second, immediate reforms to the council charter to prevent this from ever happening again. No species should be able to authorize the murder of millions with a simple vote. Third, humanity will be granted a permanent seat on the council's security directorate, with full veto power over military actions." "You want to join the most powerful body in galactic government?" a Pelothian delegate asked. "After threatening all of us?" "We do not want it," Chen corrected. "We are demanding it. Because clearly, someone needs to have the power to say no when the council decides that genocide is acceptable. Someone needs to be willing to stand up to the powerful species that think they can do whatever they want. And since no one else was willing to do it, humanity will." "And if we refuse?" the speaker asked. Chen gestured to the holographic displays still showing human ships positioned throughout the galaxy. "Then we will—" 3 months had passed since humanity's demands echoed through the Galactic Council chambers. 3 months since the galaxy learned that Earth was not weak, not naive, and certainly not forgiving. The changes had come faster than anyone expected. Pushed by necessity and the very real threat of human military power, the Galactic Council met again. But the chamber felt different now. The seats were the same, the translation systems worked as before, but the atmosphere had fundamentally changed. Power had shifted, and every being present could feel it. "Ambassador." Chen stood at the center of the chamber, but this time he was not alone. Beside him stood Ambassador Kwame Nkrumah, representing the newly formed Human Security Council, and Admiral Okonkwo, wearing her full military dress uniform. The message was clear. Humanity now spoke with diplomatic, legal, and military authority. The Methodian speaker called the session to order. Her voice was steady, but those who knew her well could hear the strain. The past 3 months had aged her in ways that her long-lived species rarely experienced. "The Galactic Council formally recognizes the delegation from Earth," she began. "We have reviewed the evidence presented and the demands made by humanity. After extensive deliberation and consultation with member species, the Council has reached its decisions." She paused, and Chen noticed that several delegates could not meet his eyes. Good. They should feel shame for what they had allowed to happen. First, regarding reparations. The Galactic Council formally apologizes to humanity for the authorization of military action that resulted in the deaths of 2.3 million human civilians. We acknowledge that our procedures failed, that our judgment was clouded by political considerations, and that we allowed genocide to occur under our authority. The speaker's voice grew quieter. The families of the victims will receive full reparations from both the Vrelnith hegemony and the Council's general fund. Memorial sites will be established on Earth and on the ruins of the destroyed colonies, with representatives from all council species required to attend the dedication ceremonies. Chen nodded, but said nothing. Words would not bring back the dead, but acknowledgement was a start. Second, regarding the Vrelnith hegemony. After review by an independent tribunal, the Vrelnith government has been found guilty of genocide under galactic law. The hegemony's military has been disbanded. Their territory is now under council oversight, with human forces providing security during the transition period. The Vrelnith will pay reparations for the next 100 years. Their government has been restructured to ensure civilian control over any future military development. The Vrelnith ambassador sat in his chair, diminished and silent. His species had gone from a major power to a protectorate in just 3 months. It was a stunning fall, but also a mercy. Humanity could have done far worse. Third, and most significantly, regarding council reforms and humanity's role. The speaker took a deep breath. The council charter has been amended. No military action can be authorized against civilian populations without unanimous consent of the Security Directorate and a 75% vote of the full council. Any species may appeal such decisions to an independent tribunal, and genocide in any form for any reason is now absolutely forbidden with no exceptions. She looked directly at Chen. Humanity is hereby granted a permanent seat on the Council's Security Directorate with full veto power over military actions. Ambassador Chen will serve as Earth's first Security Directorate representative. The chamber remained quiet. Some species had fought these changes desperately. Others had accepted them as inevitable. But the vote had been decisive in the end. 39 species voted in favor. Only 5 voted against. 3 abstained. Chen stepped forward to address the council. Humanity accepts these changes and these responsibilities. We do not take them lightly. We understand that power brings responsibility, and that our actions from this day forward will be judged by the same standards we demanded from others. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from dozens of different worlds. We came to the stars seeking friendship, trade, and peace. What we found was a galaxy where might made right, where political power mattered more than justice, and where the lives of millions could be ended with a simple vote. That galaxy no longer exists. Some of you fear us now. Some of you hate us. Some of you respect us. All of that is understandable. But understand this: humanity will never again allow our people to be slaughtered while politicians debate. We will never again trust in the goodness of others to protect us. We will defend ourselves, we will defend our allies, and we will enforce the rules that this council claims to uphold. A Pelothian delegate raised a tentacle. How can we trust that humanity will not abuse this power? You have shown you are capable of tremendous violence. What prevents you from becoming the very thing you fought against? It was Admiral Okonkwo who answered. You cannot trust us. Not yet. Trust must be earned through actions over time. What you can count on is that humanity has rules we live by. We do not attack civilians. We do not commit genocide. We do not start wars without cause. But when we are threatened, when our people are murdered, when justice is denied, we respond with overwhelming force. She gestured to a holographic display that appeared above the chamber floor. It showed the new Geneva Conventions, humanity's proposed update to galactic law. We have drafted a new treaty governing warfare. It includes strict protections for civilians of all species. It defines war crimes and establishes mechanisms for accountability. It creates neutral tribunals to judge violations. And it is backed by humanity's commitment to enforce these rules. You are making yourselves the galaxy's police force? A Methodian admiral asked, his tone skeptical. No, Chen replied. We are making ourselves the galaxy's deterrent. We are the species that will say no when powerful civilizations decide that weaker ones are expendable. We are the force that will ensure the rules apply to everyone, not just to those without political connections. The Catharan ambassador spoke, her ancient voice carrying across the chamber. Some will call you tyrants. Some will say you have replaced the old order with human dominance. Perhaps, Chen acknowledged. But ask yourself, is the galaxy better or worse now? Are civilian populations safer or more at risk? Are powerful species more or less likely to commit atrocities? If the price of preventing another genocide is that humanity becomes feared, we will pay that price gladly. Over the following weeks, the changes rippled throughout the galaxy. The Vrelnith territory underwent massive restructuring. Human peacekeeping forces worked alongside Council observers to ensure stability during the transition. It was difficult work, but necessary. Other species began reaching out to Earth, seeking bilateral agreements and defense treaties. The younger races, those who had felt the weight of the older powers, were especially eager to establish relationships with humanity. Earth had proven that the established order could be challenged, and that gave hope to those who had felt powerless. Trade increased dramatically. Human technology, especially in weapons and defensive systems, became highly sought after. Earth carefully controlled what it sold and to whom, establishing strict export controls to prevent its innovations from being used for aggression. But not everyone was happy with the new reality. Several older species chafed under the restrictions. They missed the days when they could pressure weaker civilizations without consequences. They resented humanity's sudden rise to power. Plots and schemes began forming in the shadows, plans to somehow reduce human influence or find weaknesses to exploit. Admiral Okonkwo was well aware of these undercurrents. She stood in her office aboard Earth's newest command ship, reviewing intelligence reports. Her chief of staff stood nearby, reading over her shoulder. "They are going to test us," the chief of staff said. "Sooner or later, some species will try to push boundaries, see how far they can go before we respond." "Let them try," Okonkwo replied calmly. "We have made our position clear. We have demonstrated our capabilities. If they choose to test our resolve, they will learn the same lesson the Vrelnith did. Humanity keeps its promises, both good and bad." On Earth itself, life was slowly returning to something approaching normal. The massive defense preparations remained in place, but people were starting to believe that perhaps, just perhaps, the worst was over. Children who had grown up during the crisis learned about the events in school. They learned about the colonies that had been destroyed, about the people who had died, and about how humanity had responded. Dr. Jennifer Park, the physicist who had helped develop Project Thanatos, gave a lecture at her university. Students filled the auditorium, eager to hear from someone who had been at the center of Earth's military revolution. "You all know what we built," she told them. "Weapons that could crack planets, systems that could coordinate millions of drones, technologies that the galaxy had never seen. But the most important thing we developed was not a weapon at all. It was a mindset." She paused, looking at the young faces watching her. "We decided that humanity would never again be anyone's victim. That decision, that commitment, changed everything. Not the technology, not the ships, not the tactics. The choice to stand up and say no, regardless of the cost." A student raised her hand. "Do you think we will ever be